Welcome, everyone, to the virtual edition of our Microsoft 365 Copilot Bootcamp. Happy you could join us. At the beginning of the summer, we launched in cities across Canada a boot camp to help explain and illustrate Microsoft 365 and help organizations that were interested get a head start on this revolution. We're really happy to be able to bring this virtually, as we know many people weren't able to make it in person. We do have videos and lots of things to share. And I'll tell you, the impact, we were in the Cineplex Odeon theaters, was pretty incredible. We're going to try to bring our best to this experience here today. So welcome. What we're here to talk about is AI, and specifically Microsoft 365 Copilot. We know from the survey we had provided a little bit earlier that people are coming to this boot camp with different levels of expertise. And I want to begin by level setting about what we're going to be doing and what 365 Copilot is all about, what this boot camp seeks to accomplish. AI is all sorts of crazy, new, and exciting and interesting things. And we appreciate that some of you are professionals and maybe you've been deeply enmeshed in AI. But I don't want you to be disappointed. I want to set what the terms are of this boot camp. What we have experienced is that organizations are starting to play and integrate with Microsoft 365 Copilot, and they're not entirely sure what to do with it and where the value is. So if you're coming and you haven't had much experience with Copilot, welcome. We're going to explain what it is and what it means. If you're the expert in your organization at using Copilot, but are trying to understand how you can better leverage it, how you can drive adoption in your organization, you've also come to the right spot. That is what we're here to talk about. So let's step back for a minute before we dive into Copilot specifically and talk about just AI in general. So a large proportion of organizations, 87%, believe that AI will give them a competitive advantage. This is a big change. It wasn't that long ago that artificial intelligence was sort of a joke. Watson had exploded on the scene. I think it had Jeopardy edition. It had won some things. A bunch of organizations invested in it, and it didn't do much. Many of us bought Google Homes or Alexas or talked to Siri, and we had our frustrations. And there was sort of a hype, and then there was a crash. But all that changed in 2022. And November of 2022, ChatGPT launched. And all of a sudden, we were creating things with AI. All of a sudden, we were having conversations. It was everything from poetry to writing programs. And it was immediate that many people started to say, how can this help me be more productive? And so there's many cool things about AI, but we want to focus on what it means for organizations, where it matters most. How can artificial intelligence help us run our businesses better? How can it help us with our customer experience? How can it help us build our brand? How can it help us be better while keeping us more secure and more effective? And here's the call. Because some businesses and organizations are going to get this before others. Some individuals are going to seize the possibilities of AI before others. And as with any technology, there will be winners and losers. And our aim here is that our clients and customers are the winners, that we have our eye on the prize. And I want to say a little illustration here to avoid the war games effect. Now, if you're not a Gen Xer, you may not know what I mean by War Games. War Games is a phenomenal film that came out in, I think, about 1983. It was about a young man, a teenager, who had his first kind of computer, and he was using it to hack into various systems. And he hacked into what he thought was a missile simulation game. It was a really great game. Turns out he was actually launching missiles from the United States towards what was then the Soviet Union. And of course, the rest of the plot unfolds. A great movie. Ronald Reagan watched it, and he never slept that night. The next day, he convened his intelligence council, and he said, is this possible? A week later, they came back with the reply, Mr. President, it's worse than you think. And that began the Reagan's cybersecurity initiative, which was way ahead of its time and revolutionized change. Now, you might think that's the point I'm making, that we need to get ahead of scary change in technology. It's not. The war games effect I'm talking about is far more personal. See, Reagan wasn't the only one who lost sleep watching war games in 1983. Two small boys in the very small town of Princeton, British Columbia, watched it as well. And they were excited. And that was me and my older brother. And we really wanted to do what was happening in war games. And so the next day, my brother convinced me, he was never good at saving money. He convinced me to take the money I'd saved from returning bottles and cans and finding them around town and go to our local Radio Shack and buy a TRS-80 color computer too. And we were excited. We brought it home. My mother furious at my brother for making me spend this money. We plugged it into our television. That's what you had to do then. And we turned it on, and it had a cursor that blinked. And it came with this big, thick book of basic programs. And I'd have to type in the program over hours, and it would do something like do a kaleidoscope or play hangman. And when you shut it off, it lost all of that. There was no storage. And my brother said, this isn't what I wanted. This doesn't do what I want. And he abandoned it. I was intrigued by what it could do. In fact, it began my love affair with computers and the possibilities of what they could do. We're seeing the same thing with AI. We're seeing organizations try it, and it doesn't do what they think it should, and they're casting it aside and avoiding it, rather than exploring the potentials of what it can do. That's what we're here to talk about today, because I firmly believe the organizations that get it and figure out how to adopt it are going to disrupt others. Now, you may not be interested in being a disruptor, but I think all of us need to have champions in our organizations that are going to have our eyes on the prize and figuring out what's happening in this space to protect ourselves and our companies from this change. And maybe not just to protect it, but to win. All right, let's get into what we're here to talk about at the bootcamp today. We have a few topics. We're going to actually cover what Copilot is and what Microsoft 365 Copilot is, different birds. So if you're coming into this green, no worries, we got you covered. We're then going to talk about managing Copilot adoption. Our VCIO is going to take us through structured ways to make sure that your organization adopts it with success and it's not just a failed pilot program. Now, a very important topic is AI data security and governance. What is the safe, responsible way to bring in AI that doesn't expose your organization to undue risk? And how to get yourselves ready so that when you adopt AI, you can use it to maximum effect. And I really like this discussion we're going to have on prompt engineering. It's a skill to use artificial intelligence, just like it's a skill to use Excel or Word or PowerPoint. And those skills can make or break your experience with Copilot. We're going to talk about prompt engineering. And finally, we're going to finish with the future of work. What new things are coming in the coming months that we want you to know about so you can prepare yourselves and your organizations? It's pretty exciting. Stick around for it. And then at the end, we're going to run a few examples of Copilot in action. We heard this from the presentations that we did live. One of the feedback was we'd like to see more practical examples of using Microsoft 365 Copilot. So we've assembled a few videos. It's about 10 minutes. Stay if you're interested in that. But by all means, if you need to sign off, we understand. This program will be recorded. The link you use to join today, you can use to get the recording later. So without further ado, I'm really pleased to bring to the stage Dante Harvey, our F12 product manager. He's going to go through what Copilot is. But before then, we've got a little video to bring the energy. All right, throw it to you, Dante.
Good morning.
Watch me.
Just watch me now.